Before we get into the episode, I am thrilled to announce that the EntreMD Business School is open for enrollment. The EntreMD Business School is the only school of its kind for physicians who want to build 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. Over the last 2 years, we have had hundreds of doctors go through the school with unbelievable results. Some of them run brands, some of them run private practices, some of them are coaches, some have other kinds of service-based businesses or product-based businesses. And we've had people come in and cross the 6-figure milestone, cross the 7-figure milestone, cross the multiple 7-figure milestone. You will be in a place where you'll get the coaching, the community, the accountability that you need to thrive as an entrepreneur, especially in the times that we're in. So maybe you've been following me for a while. Maybe you've been getting so much out of the EntreMD podcast and you've been wondering, how can I work with Dr. Una and the community more? Well, this is your chance. Come join us in the EntreMD Business School. It is application only. So go to entremd.com/business to turn in your application. I cannot tell you how many doctors have made statements like this. I recovered my investment in the first week. I recovered my investment in my bank account in the first 90 days. This is the best investment I've made in myself ever. I want you to have that kind of story, not just a story of building a great business that serves a lot and earns a lot, but having a business that gives you the freedom to live life on your terms. So don't wait any longer. entremd.com/business. And now for the episode. Hi, docs. Welcome to the EntreMD podcast, where it's all about helping amazing physicians just like you embrace entrepreneurship so you can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Una. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the EntreMD podcast. I have looked forward to this, even though I didn't know till this morning that I was going to be interviewing the amazing Dr. Toomer. But, you know, she has such an amazing story, such an amazing journey. She's a seasoned veteran entrepreneur at this point, and we are going to dive into her journey, the possibilities, the challenges, the wins, the impact like beyond business. And, you know, I just want you to lean into this episode because it's going to be really amazing. So Dr. Toomer, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So I am going to give you a moment to briefly kind of introduce yourself to the listeners. Some have heard you before because I think this is your third time or fourth time on the podcast. And but some of them are like, why is she so excited? Tell them why.
Well, I am Catherine Harmon Toomer, MD. I am a family medicine and community health physician who founded health, wellness, and weight loss centers based around a program that I created 21 years ago to reverse my own obesity, my insulin-dependent diabetes, and to survive postpartum cardiomyopathy, which is pregnancy-related congestive heart failure. And at the time was told I had a 50% chance of living 5 years and decided that wasn't acceptable. I had a 3-year-old and a newborn, and I wanted to live for them. And so I set out to survive. And in the course of doing that, created a program that I now use to help people also turn their lives around, get their lives back. If they're feeling overwhelmed and they want to feel well, then I help.
And she does a good job of this, people. So you lost what, 60 pounds in the process of going through this?
Interestingly, I've been saying I lost 60 pounds. I was going through papers and found my admission papers for when I was first diagnosed. And I was right from now, and from the weight I was then and the weight I am now is 100 pounds different.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
We've been 40 pounds off?
We've been 40 pounds off. Now, I lost the 60 pounds immediately when it was intentional and I was trying to lose weight. And then I've lost another 25 pounds since. And I think some of that earlier, I lost some before because of diuresis. I think just fluid being pulled off. But yes,
wow.
Combination of fluids and tension and then just living. It's been 100 at this point. So right now at 57, I am the weight I was in high school.
That's insane. And guys, we're going to put all her links and all of that stuff because you do need to check out what she does. She has done this for clients. She has many patients who have lost 100, 40, 60, like those kind of numbers. And it's nothing crazy. It's like stuff that is sustainable. She's talking about doing this. She did this as someone who was in congestive heart failure. So you can imagine that it's nothing crazy. It really isn't. So yeah, that's exciting. A whole 40 pounds off. Now I know. All right. So let's talk about this, right? Like we met in 2018, was it? And then we started working together in 2019. So it's been a minute. So take the audience through what business was like before that.
Business when we first met, business was a new idea and newly implemented. And I didn't know what I didn't know, but I knew where I wanted to be. And you were there. So I saw you speaking at a conference, and I said, and I saw many people speak at that conference, but you were the one who had exactly what I wanted. And it turned out we ended up having dinner together that evening. But at that point, I didn't know you coach. I didn't even really know much about coaching, to be honest. Never considered getting a coach, didn't even know that was a possibility. And then I started my brick and mortar office, my weight loss center. It's actually health, wellness, and weight loss in that order. But I had so many ideas, so many things that I knew I was good at, so many things that I knew I could do to help. I was spinning around in circles. And so I was spreading myself really thin. And so I was doing a lot of little things halfway instead of doing a few things the whole way. And I didn't get there until we started working together and you helped me kind of hone in on the ideas that I had that were the most beneficial, that would give me the satisfaction I wanted, give me the flexibility I needed, and give me the results that I wanted to have with the people that I helped. Because it wasn't about money. And much to the frustration, I think sometimes I don't think in terms of revenue generating activities. I always think in terms of what's the best way I can help someone. And then as a result, people come to me and I make money, but I never make decisions based on that. But I needed to at least get a good combination of things I wanted to do or needed to do just to have a good, solid business. And you helped me do that. And so within the first 2 months of us working together, my revenue went up 630 something percent. And which shocked me because, to be honest, I didn't even notice at first until you asked me, well, what did you make then? And what are you making now? I'm like, oh, wait a minute. My accounting system would tell me each month how, every 30 days, how much you made more. And I was like, oh gosh, oh, okay, I made that. But, my overhead was low and I kept it low for a reason because I didn't want money to be the reason that I had to see patients. And so I started out where I only needed to see 5 patients to make all I needed for the month for my expenses. And my prices were too low at the time. So
I remember.
So I've just learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about business. I've learned a lot about how things that seem inconsequential turn into bigger and bigger events and opportunities. And you just never know what little tweak here is going to snowball into something else. And that has been happening over and over and over again. Some of those things we knew were going to happen because you saw it coming and told me, expect this. And I expected it and I prepared for it. Other things that have happened, I did not expect at all. And I wanted them to happen, but didn't expect it to happen. And so, I started my business when I was 50. So you can imagine, it's like I thought, oh, this will be something nice that I can calmly do, control my schedule, which I needed. I wanted to make sure I could protect my family, protect my health. But then it was just one opportunity after another, to the point now where I actually have to turn them down because it's just too much.
I mean, I mean, that's like music to my ears.
Yeah, I
Like, now
know.
I'm like, many, many, many more. Which one will we do? Because we're not doing them all. Now, you said something that I think is really important for entrepreneurs to know, which is that these little things that seem inconsequential that lead to massive results, sometimes even results you didn't expect. So can you pull maybe an example or two of that? Because somebody is at a beginner stage or in the middle, the messy middle where you're like, man, why did I sign up to do this?
Mhm,
I didn't have to be an entrepreneur. But they don't
mhm,
realize that every time you do one of those inconsequential things, you're setting yourself up for down the line and not as far as you would think, but down the line,
mhm.
it creates opportunities that will completely blow your mind. So, do you have a few examples you can give us, encourage somebody today?
Well, one example, I don't know if it would be considered inconsequential because you told me what it was going to do, but I didn't want to do it. It scared me. It terrified me. And that was doing videos. I don't mind being interviewed. I didn't mind being on the receiving end of a video. I didn't want to be on the producing end of a video. And I just thought, oh gosh, I have too many things I could talk about. It was so overwhelming. So finally, following your eat it, progress over perfection, I said, I'm just going to do it. Just tape it. No matter how bad it is, I'm going to put it out. Well, I did that and I got better and I got better. And it didn't even take very long before I got contacted about doing TED Talks. And that was definitely on my vision board. I wanted to do a TED Talk. And so when someone asked if I'd considered it, I yes. And then I started looking into ways that could happen, found a magnificent coach, and I'm going to say his name, Cesar Cervantes, because he was just phenomenal and helped me hone my ideas and get it together. And I did a TED Talk. Well, since I've done a TED Talk, I'm being offered a lot of speaking opportunities. Some paid, most paid, some not. But even the ones that aren't, I can see the connections that I can make and the networking that can happen as a result. And now I'm actually turning some down. I just don't have the time to do all the ones that I'm getting. I've been asked to be on many podcasts, guests on podcasts. I was told by a few that my appearance was their most downloaded episode. As a result of that, though, all of my information, all of my ways of contacting me were all included in those podcasts. And I did start noticing a blip in the number of clients I was getting and people seeking me out. It all happened very organically. I didn't run ads. I didn't do anything really strategically other than just kind of put myself out there. And that is the biggest thing. Everywhere I'm seen, I get stuff that comes back.
Everywhere I'm seen, I get stuff that comes back. I hope everybody got that. And if you're not driving, that is a good thing to write down. I love it. And it's something as simple as videos, but it can literally transform your life, right?
Oh, it
And
has.
that is just amazing. Okay, so I have a funny question for you, right?
Mhm.
So we started off in 2019.
Yes.
And so it's been a number of years, right?
Mhm.
And so inquiring minds want to know, why are you still coaching? Like, didn't you figure it all out?
Okay. So, well, we started off one-on-one and we did that for a little over a year, if I remember correctly. No, we started in 2019 in around June. And then in 2021, I switched to EBS. So for about a year and a half, we worked together one-on-one. And what I needed during that time was guidance. I needed someone who knew the answers to the questions I had. And I needed access to that person, you, on my own. I didn't want to, have to wait. I was just impatient. And I liked I liked that one-on-one attention. And I needed it. Even though much of it was, yes, that's right. Or, wait on that. That's, if you put that in there now, it's going to dilute something else that you're doing that's actually working for you. And, so any pitfall, any problem, I had you to go to ask questions. And then anything that I wanted to grow in, I had a blueprint to use. Then I did get to a point where I felt like, okay, this is smooth. I know what to do now and everything, but I didn't want to stop. It was just too valuable. I just said, you know what? Even for peace of mind alone, it was just worth it. But then you started the EntreMD Business School. And I started seeing more and more people in social media who were attached to the business school. People I knew, some people I didn't, many people I respected, people I was following. And I thought, oh, I hadn't really done group coaching before, but it can't hurt. And it's a good next step. So I don't have to just stop one-on-one, because I didn't really think I needed it as much, but I didn't have to just stop. And I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea just how much that community has given me and continues to give me. I'll just give an example, perfect example. In the past 6 weeks, I've been going through a lot of personal stuff, illness in the family, lots of illness in the family, just, my time being pulled in many different directions, relatives put on hospice, other anniversaries of deaths. And it was just very, very difficult. And typical to what most people do when they're in difficulty, they often withdraw. And I did that. And so I stopped going to the weekly EBS meetings, mostly because I was traveling to go see my in-laws, because to help them make medical decisions. But yesterday I was home, and my first inclination was, you're tired, just lie down. You can watch the video of it later. And I said, no. So I got on the call and immediately felt the energy. Immediately. I just, whatever it was, whatever place I was, I just snapped me out of it immediately. And I'm sitting here right now because sitting in that meeting, I thought, you know what? I stopped doing podcasts. And I remembered I was invited to this one. So I immediately made the appointment to be here today. And so those type of saving moments, it saves me repeatedly. It saves me from overwhelm. It saves me from my fears. It saves me from not feeling isolated. It protects me from the naysayers. It protects me from my own self-doubt. It's just so valuable in a group, and the minds and the people in there having access to really dynamic men and women who are at various stages of their business growth. So it reminds me how far I've come, and it shows me how far I can go.
And wow, that is gold right there. It shows me how far I've come, so I can celebrate and I'll feel like nothing is working. And it shows me how far I can go. And so it shows me possibility. That is liquid gold right there. I love it.
It's the truth.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna kind of clip out that part, about the community, and I'm just gonna play over and over again. That was really good. And I'm happy that you find it, and the doctors in it, actually me, I find it to be such a special place. I always say that it's the most positive place on Facebook, and it's not a brag. It literally is. Yesterday was one of those days. I don't know if I pushed it or I don't know what it was, but I was tired, and I was like, man, I'm going to rest and all of this stuff. And I was talking with Makita, and she's like, well, go do your EBS. You know that it sets you on fire. By the time you're done with that call, you'll be fine. And when she said it, I was like, well, that is true, though. Like, I can come on that call like any kind of way. But once we hit record and we start, it's like, and that's exactly what happened. Last night, I went like totally energized and all of that stuff. Like, let's take the world. So it's fun that everybody has that experience, so that's really good. Now, when it comes to building a business, in the beginning stages, even in the middle, a lot of the focus is the business. But a lot of times we don't realize, like, other than the business success, it has this ripple effect in our lives. You know what I mean? And so for you, you've been at it long enough. What would you say the impact of running a profitable business, like giving yourself permission to do that, paying the price, facing the fears, daring the challenges, doing all of that, and getting on the other side, what has that made possible in your life?
What it's done is it gives me flexibility for my family, which is very, very important to me. I have two daughters. They were starting in college. I wanted to have the ability to stop what I was doing in order to help them. I wanted to be able to run errands if necessary for my husband, who also is a physician, because those things are important to me. And I don't know if you can hear a lot of background noise.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
We'll edit out. You're fine.
Okay. And so that was very, very important to me. It also was very important to me for me to be able to protect my health. And therefore, if I felt like I was getting to a point where I was pushing too far, pushing too hard, I needed to be able to pull back. So that meant having full control of my time and my schedule. That was the ultimate. If it meant, less revenue, that was fine. I didn't care because it was too valuable for me to have that time control. And but what happens though is when you control your time like that, what you do becomes so much more productive because you're not tired, you're not overwhelmed, you're not being stretched in so many different directions. You know exactly how much time you have to do it. And even you're not rushing, because often things don't get done in a quality way when you're rushing to do it. And you can take your time or pivot. That's the other thing that it did. It allowed me to pivot when necessary without really breaking a stride, simply because I wasn't so dependent on any one process that I couldn't change it at a moment's notice.
And you did that during the pandemic. You're like,
I did.
Boom. You went from brick and mortar to 100% online. I mean, like in a day.
Yeah.
And it was just like, FYI, just so you know, I switched everything to online. I'm like, okay, that works. Right. And then how about for your family? Because I remember you talking about the impact it's had like on your kids, the impact it's had on your marriage and stuff like that. Because people don't know, but it affects everything.
It made me more present. So everyone felt supported, and I did too. It gave me more time just to spend with people. I didn't, if I wanted to take an evening and do nothing else but sit and watch television with my husband, I can do that. Or go out to dinner, or, go for a drive, or just, go swimming every single evening and just sitting out near the pool and just really lounging, having conversations. Those are things that you can't take back once they've happened, and you don't want to. Those type of memories and that type of connectedness, which is very important, especially now, we've been married now almost 30 years. So those times are very important. The other is my daughters see me as a boss. I have daughters. And when they see their mother in control and command, it has an effect on them. So my daughter, in fact, just yesterday, she's recovering from COVID. And I went to check on her, and she hands me a box and says, "Can you take this to UPS for me?" And I'm like, "What is it?" And she's like, "Oh, someone just bought some plant clippings and I needed to send them out." Because that's one of her businesses.
Okay. How old is this child who has multiple businesses? Just for the audience.
21. She just turned 21.
21. And you rubbed off on her that well.
Yeah. She has an Etsy shop. She's got a shop where she sells her secondhand clothes. She has an art studio where she does commissions, and just got another commission this week. And she does photography. She takes graduation photos mostly. And she just had a photo shoot 2 weeks ago.
Unbelievable.
And so, yeah. And those are, she's good at all of it, and she manages it very well. And I'm very proud of her.
I love it. Love it. Okay. Now you made a statement. You said, yeah, if I need to shut it down, I'll shut it down. And I don't mind if it's less revenue and all that stuff. Did you find out that it ended up being less revenue?
No.
At all? Because you are the definition of I make more by working less.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things I did do in order to do that, though, I did adjust my prices so that they were comparable to what I was actually doing. I was being extremely unfair and really quite disrespectful to my education by not charging what I was.
Say that again. Unfair and disrespectful to my education by not charging enough. Okay, guys, you guys are getting writer downers. I hope you're writing them down. That is so good.
But it was. I mean, that's exactly what was happening. And so when I finally got some sense into me and listened to you and others around me, just really doing some research and looking into what I was doing in comparison to what other people were doing, not to say comparing it in a way so that I felt I was lesser than, but I made me really appreciate more what I was doing. And so knew I needed to charge more. And one of the things that actually really hit home was when I had someone actually tell me they couldn't afford me because they had paid thousands of dollars for their cat to the vet. And I know that what I do is way more valuable than what veterinarians do for cats. Cats can't tell you how well they are. I mean, of course, cats can be part of the family to many people, but they still can't give you feedback. But life changes. How valuable is getting your life back? How valuable is having health? How valuable is waking up in the morning feeling rested and not being in pain? How valuable is it having to drop your medications because you're doing things in a way so that you're not on half the medications you were on before? And so once I started thinking along those lines, I stopped undervaluing what I did. Or undercharging. I didn't undervalue. I always valued what I did, but I undercharged for it. But what that did was free up more time because I didn't really care about an increase in revenue. I wanted more time because to me, time is valuable. And so what that did is, ultimately what it did was that it freed up my time, which freed up my opportunities, which then freed up created more streams of income, which then, so it just kept snowballing. It's still snowballing, to be honest.
It's still snowballing, people. You hear me talk about the snowball all the time. When it starts, it's a wrap. It keeps going. I love it. Okay. Now, the EntreMD Method book, I wrote a chapter on the fear of failure and the fear of success. And my introduction to the fear of success was your story.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because you're like, yeah, but if I do this, then my business blows up and then I don't have time for my family. And I was a stranger to that. I did not know that. And then I started seeing more people talk about it. Like, I want to do the business, but I'm a mom, I'm a single mom, and I have a daughter. And if I do this and it works, then what happens to her? I'll not have time for her, right? And so this is now almost, how many years later? So the question then is, you are so much more successful, right? Like, than you were then in a way.
Absolutely.
And so the question is, was the fear validated? Did it come to pass? Or, talk to us about that.
There were moments when it did, only because I wasn't being careful and intentional with my time and with my accepting of opportunities. Just because someone offers doesn't mean you have to take it. And so I became a little bit more choosy in what I did. And therefore, it just reverted back to me having more time. But a perfect example of how I protect my time and protect myself, I am one of your biggest fans. I mean, that's just the truth of it. I love your method. I love how you do things. I love that the way you execute everything. I pay just as much attention to how you execute as what you say. And because of that, I haven't yet read your book. And the reason I haven't is because I haven't yet learned how not to stay awake all night reading. I haven't learned how to put a book down. I can't read. It's like I read from cover to cover when I start something, and I know that's what's going to happen. And so if there's a time where I'm like, I cannot not get sleep because it does affect my health, because I still have congestive heart failure. So sleep is very important. And so I've already planned the day that I'm going to read it, because I'm taking a vacation the first week of May, and that book is coming with me. So, I didn't know the story, didn't know that was in there, because I haven't yet had a chance to read it, because I know I won't put it down once I start. And that's what I do for reading in general. I have to protect my time, even from books. Because
that is the discipline that is required, right?
Mm-hmm.
For you to live the life that you want. Because that's creative procrastination. I am procrastinating on purpose and creatively.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that is brilliant. That is just amazing. I hear it's an easy read. So when you do read it on vacation, it'll be cool. But that's a perfect example. Thank you for sharing that, where you put things in their proper place, knowing where you are, what stage of life, like what's going on and all of that. So that's amazing, because the book probably came out the same time this whole 6 weeks of a personal challenge happened. Like it seems like it was the same time. Yeah. So that makes perfect sense. That's brilliant. Okay. Well, I didn't see that coming. All right. Now, there are a lot of physicians who feel like entrepreneurship, succeeding at entrepreneurship, even replacing the physician's salary, that it's out of reach. I hear that conversation more. The first time I was shocked. I was like, why would you say that? But it is a conversation. So there's someone listening who is like, that's really great. And I see how it could happen for you, but that's not within reach for me. And like physicians can't build those kind of businesses. What would you say?
Physicians have been building those type of businesses ever since they've been coming out of med school. When they say coming out of med school and hang up a shingle, what were they doing? They were hanging up that shingle in a business. They weren't sitting there and working for free. Every single practice that you've ever seen anywhere is a business. And so I don't know how we managed to get to a place where people told us we're not business owners, we're not entrepreneurs, and we believed it. And
we believed a lie.
Yeah, it's just not true. And so if at any point you ever thought, I want to start a practice, you're an entrepreneur. That's what you are, because that's what a practice is. Our lives are entrepreneurial, because even if the currency isn't in dollars, whether it's in time or energy, it's still something we're managing. And managing a system that creates revenue is really no different. It's either revenue in dollars, it's revenue in time, or it's revenue in energy. And it's hopefully all three. So for anyone who is afraid, what else are you going to do? What are you going to do instead? I mean, if you're happy with what you're doing, that's fine. But if you're not, then what else are you going to do? How are you going to change it? And no one has ever said, I hate that I'm in more control of my time and my money.
It is so
energy.
Annoying that I'm in control. I can't take it. This is awful.
Exactly. I'm so annoyed that I'm in more control of my space within my head and outside of my head. And so that's what it does. It gives you freedom. I have freedom. Now, as a disclaimer, I am from a 2-physician household. So I had a little cushion, because if my business failed, it wasn't going to devastate my family. And so had I been in that position, I'm sure I would have been a lot more scared, but I still would have done it because I knew how, and there would have been no reason for me to. And I would have been able to control my growth. And that's the other is, it's sort of like controlled burning. It's like, in order to get a forest to be healthy, sometimes you have to burn the undergrowth in order for the trees to grow better, or for new things to come up in a healthier way. And that's sort of what this is, entrepreneurship is. You're burning the old way of doing things. You're burning the lie we've been told. You're burning people using our intellectual property as theirs and not our own. And then growing something new from that. Because honestly, it's easy to get into this, I need to know every step of the way what's going to happen. When you applied for med school, you didn't know what was going to happen. How many people have started off saying, I'm going to be a surgeon, or I'm going to be family medicine, and ended up in a totally different specialty because they were exposed to something they weren't exposed to before? It's the exact same thing with entrepreneurship. You never know. You don't know what you don't know. And when something comes at you that clicks with your personality, clicks with who you are as a person, you have the freedom to then take advantage of it, because it's your time, it's your revenue, it's yours. It's not someone else. You don't need permission from someone else to do what you want to do with what opportunities come your way.
I hope you guys heard it. I hope you heard it. Okay. I'm not even going to say anything about that. That's golden. But yes, we've been sold a lie, and this is what we're going to do. I love it. Now, somebody is thinking, well, okay, she talked about coaching. She talked about the business school. It seems like a fantastic place, but I don't have the time. I don't think I have the money. I don't know if it'll work for me. Like all of that stuff, right? And what would you say to that person? Like, I'm biased. I'm like, do that. This is where you should be. But
What I would say is we all have more time than we did when we were in med school and residency. One. Two, what we feed grows. So if you write down the top 5 things that you want and you write down the top 5 things that you're doing, if they don't match up, something needs to change. And so if there's time that you're using that's not in line with what you want, eliminate it and use that time for something else. If there's money you're spending on something that's not in line with what you want, then stop spending it on that and spend it on something that you want. It's an investment in not just your future, but your life. It's the equivalent, I feel, of someone needing a machine to breathe and then not getting that machine because it's too big and too expensive and you don't have space for it. You make room. You make room for it. You make money for it so that you can live longer and live better, because otherwise you're living half a life and not even enjoying that part of it.
wow. Okay. When we started this, I told Dr. Toomer just before we got on that this is going to be like a wise episode, like a grandma episode, right? And you can just hear the nuggets and the wisdom with each question. I'm like, okay, I kind of thought, but I didn't see that coming. Good. Now people are going like, oh my goodness, Dr. Toomer is amazing. Where do I find her? Right? Where do they find you?
You can email me one at courage@drtoomer.com is the best way. To find out more about me, you can go to drtoomer.com, and that's drtoomer.com, and that's Toomer, because not the brain tumor type. Or you can find me on Facebook. I'm the only C. Harmon Toomer MD on Facebook, so, and actually really Google. So
she has put herself out enough that Google knows who she is. Okay, people? And we will put links to all her stuff in the show notes. And really, if you're here and you're a physician, you'd have heard her say health, wellness, and weight loss in that order. And if you're like, man, don't feel well, feel overweight, want to work on it, she is the person for you. I'm telling you. Okay. I started off this year going like, okay, I need to work on my health. I didn't really need to work on weight loss. I could do with a few less pounds, but that wasn't my goal. My goal was like, I'm tired. And I'm like, I can't be tired at 43. I'm trying to be strong and carry groceries at 90. You know what I mean? Like, I can't be tired at 43. And I had like the worst habits on the planet as far as eating and all of that. Not junk food, but just not eating, which, is almost as bad as junk food. And then I was like, well, who's my person? And there are tons of weight loss people, but I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for a wellness person. And then so I started working with her. And I kid you not, like it was less than 3 weeks before I was like, okay, my energy is back. I started developing the right habits, learning to eat, because I would literally not eat and get dizzy at 8 p.m. and be wondering what's going on. Like that's how bad it was. I did not drink water. I did not do protein. I was just not being nice to my body. But now I'm nice to my body, courtesy of Dr. Toomer. And I will be carrying my groceries at 90, right? And I've had weight fall off. It was not the goal, but you fix what you should fix and what needs to happen happens. So I'm telling you that to say, if you're like, I need to be well, or I need to lose weight, or like 100 pounds, that sounds good. And she's kept it off for over 2 decades, right? Not 2 days, not 2 weeks, 2 decades. Then that's your person. So go check her out. Okay. And email her and all the things. So Dr. Toomer, thank you for what you do. And thank you for coming on to share your story, because there's so many people who will be able to start, grow, scale their businesses because of what you've shared. There are going to be people who have been afraid of success who are like, oh, well, I can manage that and I can work through that. There are people who maybe have not been as consistent with doing the quote unquote little inconsequential things who realize that, my goodness, if I can do this, it will open doors and it will create a snowball that will just keep snowballing. So thank you for coming to share all of that.
Can I just add one thing to this?
Sure.
My philosophy has always been use the minimal amount of effort to get the maximum outcome in my business, in my personal life, in my process, in everything. And so my feeling has always been, can I do it now? And can I do it when I'm 90? If the answer is no, I know I need to change something because it shouldn't be so strenuous that I can't do it for the rest of my life. And that is essentially what you've given me, actually. Just nice, concise things to do that even if I do them halfway, which sometimes I did, admittedly, I still got results. And so it wasn't like I was grinding all the time. It was just, I knew exactly if I needed something to happen, I knew exactly what I needed to do to get there. Wow. And so when you mentioned 90, I was just like, whatever the process is you're doing now, you need to be able to do when you're 90.
And what I do for business, you can do to your 90. And what she does for health, you can do to your 90. Because I didn't have to disrupt my life for it. I just had to do a few things. So, man, this was so good. Okay, I knew it would be good. This was really good. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, remember, EntreMD is more than a podcast. It's more than a book. It's more than a business school. It is a movement. It's a tsunami of change within the physician community. Okay, we've complained about stuff enough. We don't do that anymore. We've taken matters into our own hands. So what you can do today to be part of the Calvary, part of the people changing stuff, you share this episode far and wide with the doctors in your life. And you're like, take a listen and do something about it. Okay. All right. So happy sharing. And I will see you on the next episode of the EntreMD podcast. Hey, if you love listening to the EntreMD podcast, I want to invite you to join EntreMD On Demand. It is my signature subscription program that gives you access to a library of business courses designed to help you do one thing as a physician entrepreneur, and that is to thrive. Just head out to entremd.com/on-demand, and I'd love to have you join us. See you on the inside.